I'm Cari Kirby. I'm the head of client services here at Peek and Poke. I'll let everybody else introduce themselves too.
I'm Adam. I'm lead designer at Peek and Poke.
I'm Tim Cooper, and I'm the head of games at Peek and Poke.
I'm Christina Horton. I am digital marketing manager at Peek and Poke.
Okay, let's go for it. I think, Christina, you've got some questions for us.
I've got some questions. Setting the scene, we're talking about football and football marketing campaigns using games specifically. So we'll start at a high level. Why is football such a relevant marketing moment?
Well, I'll take this one initially. I mean, football is a massive experience for everybody, right? There are so many people that love the sport. It really does bring people together. It's no surprise really that brands kind of hop in on the football thing because there's so much money in it, right? You know, there's so much opportunity to kind of get in front of people, be in the moment with people when they're celebrating, when they're experiencing football. And I know that not everybody likes football, but it does bring a lot of people together. And those people that don't really enjoy football necessarily do often get involved when it's a World Cup or a big tournament that brings a nation together. Would you agree with that, Adam?
Yeah, definitely. So I am a big football fan. Probably the only, well, apart from you, quite like a bit of football, Cari, but in the office there's not many fans. Yeah, it's something that brings everyone together, like you said. It's in the public consciousness when we have these big footballing events.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good because it's one of those things that, you know, when people are having a good time, having your brand front and center of that kind of brings it all together as well.
So there's a perception that football marketing is dominated by large consumer brands. Would you say that is true?
Yes, I would say that's true, but largely because those are the ones we see, right? I guess those are the ones that are going to be having the TV ads and the billboards and, you know, making a big splash. But that's not to say that smaller brands can't get involved and shouldn't get involved. If you're a B2B kind of company, a software company, you know, you still want to be talking to your audience around the time that the huge kind of footballing moment is happening. So you can still have those conversations and you can still get involved, I would say. I don't think it shouldn't stop people from getting involved just because it is ordinarily the large consumer brands that we see kind of capitalizing on it.
I don't think it's just the big consumer brands though, is it? It's like, even on a small scale, you see businesses everywhere. They're always doing something football related, supporting their local team or the national team, or special offers for whatever the business type is. Certainly on the consumer side, you know, you definitely have lots of football and tournament related promotions going on, right?
Yeah, I think the bigger brands obviously are the ones that are affiliated with the tournament, aren't they? So they're kind of the ones that you see on the TV. But there's definitely opportunity for the smaller brands to kind of get involved, but it's not as an official partner of the tournament or whatever. It's kind of
no.
It's just joining in the fun, getting on the bandwagon with the tournament.
Moving on, what role do we think that games plays in this type of activity?
Well, I think the thing with games is that they can play the same role in this tournament in the same way that they would play a role in many other forms of marketing, really, wouldn't they? So it's any sort of opportunity when you want to engage an audience or engage them at a point in the marketing journey, then a game can fit in there. So whether that's initial lead generation, trying to grab attention, jumping on the tournament of the time, having a game that's themed around that and using it as a way to bring people in, grab attention wherever that may be. Or if you're nurturing a mailing list and you want to kind of engage your email audience or your newsletter list and you want to do it in a fun way, and again you're using the theme of the football tournament to style that campaign essentially in the same way you would any other campaign, really. Promotions, if you're wanting to promote an offer or a discount code or anything like that, then a game is a great way of doing that. It's a great way to kind of get people involved, give people an opportunity to win the prize, a discount, whatever that might be. Yeah. Any others I've missed, Cari?
Oh, no, I think that's it's wherever you would normally kind of present a game. It's a piece of content, isn't it, at the end of the day? And I think what's nice about the football cycle, and especially the World Cup, is that it sits in that summer kind of period. Well, this year it does anyway. The last World Cup didn't. The summer is often quite a difficult time for kind of content marketers to kind of cycle through things. There's a lot of holidays as well. So it's quite a nice thing to be able to hang your marketing hat off of and kind of get with it and kind of, jump on that bandwagon. Certainly engaging in emails, sharing it on social. There's also things like employee engagement as well, getting your staff behind the tournament too, which is quite nice. In-person events, that's another one. So we've got a few clients who are going to events that are around the time of the World Cup. So actually theming a game at your stand around around that moment, or you could give away, people giving away football shirts as well. So they would have a football game that is related to the World Cup too. So there's lots of opportunities really.
Okay, so in our marketing, we often talk about participation versus passive content. What does this mean in practice?
You're absolutely right. There is obviously a difference between passive and participation. And I guess passive is essentially something that, you're just scrolling past. It's just there. You're not really getting involved with it. Whereas something that is interactive, something that you are engaging with, has a different effect. It becomes something that is more sticky, something that is a bit more memorable, something that you come back to and engage with again and again and again. And from a brand perspective, that's really important, because at the end of the day, if somebody is engaging with your content on a regular basis and coming back to it over and over again, they're definitely, there's a real affinity there, you could say. There's a real kind of engagement, and that's what we're after, right? As marketers, we want people to engage with our brand. We want them to do something. And if they are engaging continuously, that's more valuable than something that is just passing them by and they're not even remembering.
What typical levels of engagement would you expect to see with a branded game?
It depends on the game and it depends on the audience, doesn't it? So we often see quite a wide range of engagement times. And I would say for us on the lower end of the scale, it might be 5 to 10 minutes if it's a very quick game, and if it's a time poor audience or an audience that doesn't ordinarily play games, or if it's a trade show audience, you're not going to have many people spending much time on a game. On the opposite end of the scale, if you've got the right game for the right audience, then we see, certainly with for example, our match 3 game, we've seen engagement times of up to 90 minutes or so, haven't we? So
even longer, some of them.
That's true. Yes, absolutely. But I think that our average is about 15. I think if you look at the median across typical campaigns, we'd see about 15 minutes. And that's, I think with some of the football games, it's a bit higher, because you tend to find that audience are a lot more invested, I suppose, is the term. They quite like getting involved, certainly with things like their target practice games or things like that. They're quite good for bringing fans in and getting them to kind of compete against each other.
Yeah, and it's those multi-level games as well, isn't it? Those multi-level games where you're kind of bringing people back constantly, and definitely see high engagement times and a real investment in time and with the brand, which when we're talking about that kind of passive versus participation thing, that's the real difference. Whereas, those kind of passive banner ads, they serve a purpose, but, you've got 2 seconds there to get a message across. Whereas with something like a game, you've definitely got eyes on your brand for much longer.
And it's not just the average kind of play time. It's the time that a game can take. You can run a game campaign over a matter of weeks or months across a tournament, not just a single kind of scroll.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much more than just a tap and go, isn't it? You're actually, the player is invested in that particular game.
It's a mini experience.
It is. I like that.
Do we have any examples of this being done well?
We've definitely got a few kind of case studies where people have ran a game around a tournament. There are a few on our website where B2B brands have run a game campaign. They've kind of done things around charities. So they're ticking off that kind of CSR box as well, where they're kind of, the more people are playing, well, then they can give more money to charity. In terms of running a good game campaign, whether it's football or anything else, it's about understanding the objective of that game. Why are you doing a game in the first place? What do you want people to do off the back of it? Understanding your audience and then promoting it in a considered way. So that's one of the things that we say to clients all the time. You can create a game, but it's not going to mean that hordes of gamers come to play it. We have to give it the best chance possible. So being able to direct people to that game from lots of different channels is what will give you a successful game.
Do you think that some might say, that sounds like a lot of extra work?
Well, yes, I suppose if you're talking devil's advocate, it might do, but it's no more work than you would do for any other piece of marketing, right? Creating content around a campaign, right? Creating ads, that's something that you would do for any marketing campaign. And at the end of the day, games aren't a marketing magic bullet. We really wish they were, but you do have to give them the time and kind of, send people to them in the right way. And we can help with that. We've got lots of templates. Christina's built lots of kind of guides out that can help people with the best way to present your game and take your game to market. So that's definitely something that, you should tap up and learn from us, because we've seen lots of different clients do it and we do it ourselves as well.
Okay, so moving on. Thinking about implementation, where do games fit within a broader marketing plan?
We sort of touched on this earlier on, didn't we? They can actually fit in all sorts of places, really. It's right through the sort of the buyer journey, whether that's right at the beginning of the process, outreach, lead generation, trying to get in front of new audiences, that sort of thing. It's also games are really great for nurturing. So if you've got people in a mailing list, or even if you've got a social following and you want to sort of give your audience something kind of fun to engage with you with, they, in that sort of context, they provide a double purpose in that they are engaging audiences with your brand. They're giving them something fun, which they will remember you by and hopefully build up some positive brand associations. And then they are effectively a lead capture form at the end, in that the players will submit a score. And then often when you're running a game campaign, you might have a competition. There's all sorts of ways we can do that. As Cari mentioned earlier, you might be doing internal campaigns. So maybe you want to run some kind of employee engagement campaign, or perhaps you've got clients or customers and you want to say thanks to them. Most of our clients do that around Christmas time, but you might want to do that around summer and football campaigns, certainly if you're sports related or health, or
It's something we see a lot with the automotive kind of construction trade based audiences, isn't it?
Well, yeah, totally. Lots of any of those trades that are sort of traditionally blue collar, those sorts of audiences, if they're B2B, they love playing games, and their football games is no exception to that.
So we keep mentioning the term branded games, but how does a brand actually show up inside a game? Like how do they do that without it being forced?
There's lots of opportunities, and that's the way that we operate, essentially. We have created, as Peek and Poke, we have created lots of different games that are great to play, that people, know and love. They're based on casual games, so they're easy to pick up and play. And then when we are going through that process of building, and maybe Adam and Tim, you'd be kind of good to jump in here at some point, but we have thought about where brands can sit within that kind of game, because it has to be fun, right? It has to be a fun game to play. Also, we appreciate that these are marketing tools at the end of the day, so it is important that there are plenty of branding opportunities. So things like hoardings and logos on the UI screen and things like that is definitely somewhere where you can place a logo or a message. How difficult is it, Adam, sometimes for you when you're kind of building a game out, to think about that as I don't know if it's a double-edged sword, or if you have to think about, it has to be fun to play. We don't want to over-egg the brand too much. But we do need to consider that and where the placement of those messages could sit.
Yeah, well, it's the same with all the games, really. It's kind of finding a place to put logos in and put branding in that's not going to get in the way of the gameplay. And the same, yeah, even more so maybe with the football-based games. Like I said, we've kind of got hoardings that go around the edge, which is quite a nice place because people are used to seeing those at football games anyway, so it doesn't feel that out of place to put them there.
Yeah, and we sometimes have an issue in that, like, brands often really want to kind of get a lot of their logos and products, they really want to kind of pile them in, don't they? And, you know, in days gone by, we used to make games that were specifically bespoke games for brands, and then they would layer up all of the brand in there, and it would be essentially a brand interactive thing rather than a game, wouldn't it?
Make the logo bigger.
Yeah, and then whereas what we've done with ours really is just because we build the games first, we are mindful of brands and logos and where they might go, but we have sort of tried to make the experience first and foremost. But then, yeah, we do. And when a brand comes in and they want to, when we start a project, it will go to Adam, and it will be his role to think about the brand palette and, like, where logos go and how those kind of elements are going to fit in. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, what we're really trying to do is make the game that we've already built essentially feel like it's a branded game for that particular brand. And obviously there's different levels of customization that they can go to do it. So it might just be the logo, but in other examples, we'll kind of change the whole game and make it really feel like it's been designed for that company. Yeah, like I said, when we initially design these games, we have to bear all this stuff in mind for future customization.
Yeah, because when we're doing a tailored game as well, it's not just about colours, is it? We can even have, just kind of in the process of finalising one at the minute, which is a target practice game. And in the ready to go game, which is essentially you take it as it is and you add a logo to it and you add logos on the hoarding. But in the tailored version, we can change all the assets within the game as well. So in the ready to go version, there's like a little, we call it a guy on a lawnmower looking after the kind of the pitch. What is that? That's a job. What's that called?
The groundskeeper.
The groundskeeper.
I like that that's your action for lawn mowing, is it?
It's because he's on the lawnmower and he's driving and he's mowing the lawn, and that's who he is in the ready to go one. But we've just done some where we've actually put in some brand mascot characters in there. So they're the ones that are looking after the ground. We did have
the monkey, and we had like other Kellogg's brand characters on the little lawnmowers in a previous game. So yeah, it's just finding those little ways to get characters or specific brand assets into the game without changing the gameplay. I think that's the thing, because we obviously spend quite a lot of time trying to get the gameplay right initially, and we don't want anything to get in the way of that. But there are ways that we can kind of tailor them to get those assets in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's another thing to consider as well. It comes down to, again, what the objective of the game is. Sometimes clients will come to us and say, yeah, we want to build something around this moment in time, and these are the important things. It needs to be an extension of the brand, but also we need to present this message in some way. We need to either, offer a call to action. They need to be able to do something afterwards, tailored certainly, and sometimes in ready to go options as well. We've got that built in too. So, there's a call to action panel where you can then jump from the game to go and do something. Or with more tailored projects, we can have messages in between levels. So we can kind of reinforce messages that are more brand related messages without them interrupting the gameplay, because that's important, isn't it? We don't, they're built to be engagement tools, and I suppose if you're interrupting with brand messaging during the gameplay, well, then you lose people, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we have to sort of like steer clients that way as well, because I think it's only natural sometimes for the client to want to throw all this information at the player about their brand, and it's a bit of a balancing act sometimes to make sure that we don't overdo it.
Yeah, definitely. I always feel like if you've got a game experience and the players involved with it, if you're too obvious with the brand, if you sort of slap it in their face, then you're kind of snapping them out of that experience, and suddenly they remember, oh, I'm playing a piece of marketing, and you don't really want that. What you want is them to you want them to just sort of kind of get lost in it for a moment, don't you? And because that's the kind of the point, that's how you get kind of longer engagement. You want to kind of get involved and want to have one more go and want to have one more go. And if you keep slapping your brand in their face every 30 seconds too blatantly, then
it becomes an interruption then, doesn't it?
It kind of ruins the experience, doesn't it? And it sort of it detracts from it a bit. So you don't want that.
So that's why we have considered things like that, but because we know that that's important to people, right? We know that's important to brands, but there's places for it that sit alongside the game, not in it.
Definitely.
So moving away from the design, is there any other kind of mechanics or functionality that brands can change in the games?
Absolutely. I mean, they can change within reason, whatever they like. Although the games have been, we've thought a lot about the gameplay and the mechanics on that side of things, but it is quite straightforward to replace characters and replace backgrounds and replace UI and add in other technical integrations in the background. So we sort of say in the office that you can do anything you like. It just depends on budget, really. And to an extent, we would push back if we felt it was going to be detrimental to the gameplay experience. Certainly, I would.
I would too, I promise.
But they're all fully customizable. I mean, that's the point of what we do. We as a business have tried to make fun experiences accessible at different price points. So we have our ready to go service for brands who haven't got tens of thousands of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds, and they just want to do a sort of a quick campaign. That's the other benefit of ready to go, is that it's super quick. You can just turn it around in a few hours or a couple of days, whatever, depends on how much time you've got, I suppose. On the tailored side, though, we start with those ready-to-go games and we customize them to the campaign or to the budget. So we do, it can be a little bit, it can be a lot. Some of our big clients will completely reimagine their games in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways, and some of them won't.
And I think, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it comes down to the objective, doesn't it? Why? Like, what do you want to get out of it? And if there's some things that we can do to adapt the functionality to make sure that we're answering those questions and answering those briefs, well, then we can, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. It comes down to time and budget generally.
So how should brands think about choosing the right type of game for their campaign or audience?
I think it's about finding, so generally when we're having kind of, discovery calls or disco calls with clients to figure out what they want to achieve and where a game might fit within their particular campaign. It's about understanding the narrative around the kind of the campaign that they want to run. And then, because obviously we're working with games that have already been pre-built, it's working out which game fits that narrative best, and also who their audience are. We know that some of our games work brilliantly for, I would say, the match 3 certainly resonates very well with women, because it's very much like a Candy Crush style game, but also a younger audience too. So it depends on your audience and the narrative of your campaign and what you're trying to say, I think, and then we could find the best solution based on those things.
Yeah,
also
that,
Tim? Yeah,
I would say also the use case. If it's for an event or an in-person environment, you probably want quick play. You don't want levels, that sort of thing. If it's for younger audience on mobile devices, then you probably want something that's got more opportunity for more engagement.
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody earlier that their target audience are sitting within the 8 to 12-year-old mark. So in which case, that we have to really consider the game that we put in front of them.
Let's talk about prizes.
What does make a good campaign competition structure, Cari?
So when you're considering a competition structure for your game campaign, and we would 99% of the time recommend that you do some sort of competition, because it really does help just to motivate people to do that final step, which is essentially put in their details and get onto the leaderboard. If there's a motivator for them to do that, well, then they're more likely to do it. It's very easy for clients to assume that the best way to run a kind of competition would be to reward the top spot, right? Because it's a game and you're climbing the leaderboard, so why not reward the person that's on the top? We always mostly advise against this for a couple of reasons. One, you want as many people to be playing your game as possible. And what can happen if somebody has set a really, really high score is it can kind of put other people off. They might go, actually, that is a really high score. I'm not very good at games. I don't think I'll have a go at all. And then they'll just walk away from it. Whereas actually, if the message is everybody who is on the leaderboard has an equal chance to win a prize, well then, it doesn't matter where you place as long as you're on the leaderboard. And it can also just encourage people to cheat a little, which we don't want to do. If there's no motivation for somebody to get to the top of the leaderboard.
Are there other ways of encouraging participation in the games? Like, can we reward players? Do they have to get to the end of the game to get a prize or to win something, or is there another mechanic that we could use?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And lots of brands come to us because they have some sort of rewards and loyalty kind of programs, right? So we can certainly reward people based on achievements in the game. If they collect a certain amount of coins, they might release a discount code or something like that. So there's lots of different scenarios where we can be rewarding people for doing things within the game. Yeah, voucher codes, run over a certain distance, beat. What's quite nice as well, we've had a few kind of campaigns that have run around a leaderboard position. So if there's maybe an influencer or some sort of kind of somebody that you're working with, if they set a score and then you're challenging their followers or their friends to kind of beat them on the leaderboard, and then they'll get a little pool of prize or something like that. That's definitely a way that you can encourage people to come back again and try and improve their score to win some extra prizes. We've also got an achievements panel which is rolling out at the minute, which is a lot of fun. Achievements panel are they're very common in standard games. We've got a game at the minute which has got 10 achievements within it. So alongside just getting to the end of the game, there are things that you have to do within the game which is slightly different. So maybe ending the game in a different way, or collecting 5 different types of this specific thing, and it certainly makes you play the game in a different way. And if people are engaging with your brand for that long to complete all of those achievements, well, I would say they definitely deserve an extra reward for that.
Is there any advice that we can give on actually selecting the type of prizes that are given away?
Yeah. And I guess, again, that comes down to your audience, really. So some B2B companies want to give away prizes that are relevant to their business. We've seen some people give away a free service or a consultation or something like that. It's always really nice to give a personal prize though as well. I think we are quite selfish really as a race. So if you're getting something for yourself, that always helps, whether that's vouchers or tickets to something. Tech prizes always go down really well.
Do we want to talk specifically about the World Cup? When is it? What's different about it? Adam, this is perfect for you to intro it.
Yeah, so the World Cup's coming up soon in June, I believe. So yeah, England are in it, Scotland are in it, Wales might be in it.
As someone who doesn't get that excited about football, what is it about it that does it for you, Adam?
Oh, I've loved football since I was a little kid. So I used to get the World Cup sticker books, and I used to swap all the stickers with my friends at school. And it's always kind of captured my imagination. It taught me a lot about different countries as well, actually, the World Cup. You got this sticker book, and there were all these sort of exotic places, and then you'd work out where they were and what the flag was and all this sort of stuff. So,
what the capital city was.
Exactly, yeah. So I've always been really into all that stuff, football, but especially the World Cup. It's kind of, yeah, it's just there's something really special about it.
Yeah.
It does hit different to normal football, I think, because I've been a football fan all my life, and I kind of lost interest until I had my own kids, seeing it through their eyes, and exactly the same as you, Adam. You know, I've got a boy who is football, especially World Cup obsessed, and he does the same. He captures all the kind of all the stickers and kind of collects all of them. And he writes down all of the groups and who's winning who and who's going on to the next phase. And it's something that brings people together. I think there's nothing like a collective. Everybody going to the pub to watch it together. There's something really special about that. I think that
Yeah,
doesn't.
I've always really enjoyed the fact that it brings other people into football as well. Like I say, like people that maybe not normally that interested, that kind of get into it.
Yeah, because it's a
Or
nation thing.
as the team gets through the tournament, that kind of excitement builds. So yeah,
You have reminded me actually when I was, I don't know when it was. I remember having a Panini sticker book, a football sticker book. Not that I watched any of the football, but the only reason I had the football sticker book is because everybody else in school had the football sticker book, and I wanted to join in and collect the stickers. Are you going to go and get your sticker book? Have you still got it? Look at that! Oh wow! Is that 98? Football 88. I think it was probably 88. Maybe it was even earlier than that. It might have been like 86. That would have been it. Yeah.
That was the first one that I got. So
I think that's the one that I had. Yeah, I had one of those. Yeah, going through collecting stickers. We'd go to the shops, we'd buy the stickers. It was mainly the swapping with the friends and joining in the playground, because when they were talking about all the footballers, I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. I was like, I don't know. I don't watch any of this. But it was the what for me, it was the fun. It was the sticker book is like a meta game, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it doesn't really matter that
it is like a sort of a meta game that goes around the football, and it's a way that you could join in even if you, like me, you don't really care about football. And which brings us, perfectly onto why a branded game is a brilliant idea, because it's a way for people who may not necessarily like watching football, but perhaps they want to just compete with their friends or their colleagues or family members. It's a way to kind of get involved in a way that isn't just watching in the pub or at home, or it's just another fun way. Because a branded game, the games that we have, they're not all specifically football games, are they? They like, we have a football game, which we spent a very long time putting together. But we also have some games that are like sort of partly football and just football themed. For example, our football runner. That's like anybody can play that. It's not really about football. There are footballs in it, and there's a footballer in it, footballers. But yeah, anybody can play. It's a nice, fun thing to have a go at around the season and get everybody involved.
Yeah, definitely, and that is something to, again, answers that question about your audience beautifully, because at the end of the day, if your audience isn't massively kind of leaning into football, and it's difficult to say that now, because I think the audience for football is changing. That's for sure. There's definitely a lot more women who are invested in the sport now than there used to be, and that's thanks to things like the Women's World Cup and the Women's Euros as well. But yes, we have a game which Adam spent hours and hours and hours and hours on, which is called the soccer game, and we've got a mini Euro game as well, which very much plays like a traditional football game, doesn't it? Where you kind of go through the stages and go through the process of the tournament.
we kind of kept that tournament sort of structure for that reason, just because it would tie in well with these big football events. And yeah, we spent a lot of time putting all these silly names in and things.
Perhaps,
I'm not sure whether
perhaps a bit too much time.
But yeah, the football game is a relatively new game, so it's still in the early stages of that. First version.
And that is great for people who do love football. But yeah, like Tim said, we've got the ones which are literally just running and simple. And there are some clients who I have recommended, probably the football one is a bit too much of a longer experience, probably not the right one for this campaign. But if you wanted to do football, we've still got this kind of, the runner game, which is just about, a platform jumper.
Yeah, and the football game, we have kind of simplified it since it first came out. I don't know if it's worth saying that. The first version that we put out was a bit too difficult. So we went back to the drawing board a bit with that, and we've changed the control mechanism to make it a little bit more accessible for maybe not the hardcore football gamer audience, to try and make it just allow more people to access it, I guess.
Yeah, and that it goes to show as well, doesn't it, that actually making good games is really hard, and it takes us a long time to get it right sometimes too. And that's what we do. You know, we spend hours and hours, thousands of hours,
years
on the games.
How long did the match 3 take to put together, Adam?
Match 3, I can't remember. I'm sure you've got the numbers.
I think that was a long time. Yeah, on match 3,
600 hours or something.
Oh, I can't remember what it was. The thing with a match 3 is that we're going really off topic now, but the thing with a match 3 was we spent a lot of time trying to get it right. It felt like it should be fairly straightforward, and then as we went through various iterations and ideas for what it was going to be and what it wasn't going to be, I think we went back to the drawing board with it like 3 or 4 times until we got to what we have now. And that's the same with this mini world soccer game. It started off as one thing, and then it evolved a bit, and it suffered massively from from scope creep. But I think that's the thing about the way we like to build our games, right? Is that we want to make them right, we want to make them good, and sometimes we get that done reasonably quickly, and sometimes it takes 4 or 5 years. In between other stuff, it wasn't a solid 4 or 5 years, but like we have other things going on. But that's the difference between doing a game specifically for a client with a deadline and a tight budget, where you can't afford to spend the time refining and polishing and making it better and making it a decent experience, because you just haven't got that time and you haven't got that budget. Whereas the approach that we always take, as we say, we like to take a player first approach, so we want to make the game good first. I think that's true of all of our games. That's certainly true of that football game, and as Adam was just talking about, we really wanted to kind of refine that control experience so that it was more accessible to more audiences and more fun to more audiences.
So we've got the World Cup coming up, starts in June, mid-June. How far in advance should brands be planning if they did want to do a branded game campaign for the tournament?
Well,
as soon as possible, absolutely. Yes. I mean, don't leave it. You can leave it till the last minute. You can leave it till there's a week to go. We have that's what the ready to go games are for, right? But you won't get much customization with that. You'll just get you'll get your brand logos in, but then you can just launch it and share it and off you go. If you want it branded, I suppose is the kind of qualifier here. If you want it like more fully branded, if you want it to kind of have deeper levels of customization, if you want to put some custom functionality or custom characters, all that sort of stuff, then it needs a lot more time. And we only have a limited kind of amount of studio time available in a week. So for us to do a game, like a heavily customized game, we need a reasonable amount of runway. If the studio is free, then we would typically expect it to take between 3 to 8 weeks to do a tailored game. But it really depends on the scope of the customization and what's going on. If we're a busy studio, then it's probably going to take a bit longer than that, because we have to manage resource and that sort of thing, usual studio stuff.
What would you say?
So don't leave it too long, and nobody wants that stress.
If you're watching this and you're thinking about doing a football branded tailored game, please call us right now.
Advertising.
Yeah, perhaps we should flash up some call now.
Yeah. So would we say that this is a realistic opportunity for smaller teams, or is it primarily for larger organisations?
It's absolutely for both. It's for both. Yeah, and we've got different price points depending on the budget that you have. So yeah, it's definitely for both. You can use it in smaller organisations, you can use it in bigger organisations. It's a sliding scale.
And something that we were talking about the other day in the office, Cari, is how should brands think about referencing the World Cup alongside official FIFA branding?
Don't reference FIFA, don't reference the World Cup. I think that's the safest approach. So of course you can run a football campaign, you can run a football tournament game campaign, but it's definitely wise to avoid any affiliation with big sponsors that are sponsoring the tournament this year, and obviously FIFA, because that is the brand that's putting it on. And any mention of the World Cup is probably best avoided, in the same way that, it's the same with the Olympics as well, isn't it? But you can absolutely run a football tournament campaign.
Yeah,
Yes.
and going back to the Mini World Soccer game, we were quite careful with that, even though it is basically a World Cup tournament, to not mention the words World Cup in there anywhere. So yeah, there are obviously ways around it to make it feel like it's tied to the World Cup without pictures of the actual trophy, FIFA or any of that kind of language in there.
Yeah, you don't want to step on any of their toes.
No.
So ROI is always a key consideration for marketing folk. How should marketers think about making the case for a campaign like this?
Well, get in touch. We'll be able to provide lots of metrics around how game campaigns have performed off the box. So from the game perspective, we are always looking at engagement figures. So you will be able to see how many people have played the game, how long they've played it for, how many people have completed the game and gone to submit their score, how many names you've got on that leaderboard, and therefore how many leads you can import into your CRM and how many of those have opted into marketing. Those are the kind of the main metrics that come out of the game. But we can also, and you're probably better off answering this one, Christina, in terms of hooking things up to, analytics, the other kind of automations that we might be able to put in place, which then can attest to the best channels that are, directing players to that game, what channel is performing better, what are people doing afterwards. There are things that we can plug the game into your systems to give you a holistic overview of how the game is performing.
Yeah, because it's not just about how they play the game, it's about how they got to the game and then the kind of the onwards journey after that, especially depending on your objective. Okay, so for somebody new to this approach, what is the simplest way to get started?
Call us up.
Give us a call, have a chat. We want to get involved in the conversation as early as possible so that we can help advise and guide you on the best approach and the best placement for your game and its campaign. So get in touch. We're always happy to have a chat, take you through what other people have done, and understand what it is that you might need, and what your business challenges are, so that we can best advise.
That's all of the questions, guys.
Okay,
All right, then.
All right, team. I'll see you later.
Well done, everybody. See
Bye.
ya.
See you.
Bye.